2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, will be delivering his medium-term budget policy statement, which is to outline our fiscal plans and forecasts for the next 3 years. Now, traditionally, this speech has been important, but not that important. It was just, this is what I said in February. Now this is where we are, and this is what we're projecting. But increasingly in the last few years, it has gained significance and importance. And Jashwin Baijoo is the head of strategic engagement and compliance at Tax Consulting SA, joins me on the line now. Jashwin, we suspect that he's going to tell us some really bad news tomorrow, don't we? Good morning.
Morning, Africa. Morning to the listeners. So based on the bad news delivered in the budget speech in February, coming with the grey listing and a whole list of other tax measures, strengthening of tax treatments, and potential for investigative windows being opened by SARS, especially on the lifestyle audit side, it is possible that we could be looking at a bit of bad news tomorrow, a VAT increase, highly unlikely. Remember, South Africa sitting at 15% is still below the global average of 19% for VAT. So there is a bit of leeway there. But the problem that comes in is an increased VAT will have a nationwide impact on South Africans, not just recovering additional taxes from the wealthy, as our tax tables do at the sliding scale, but rather having an adverse impact on the most vulnerable of our society as well.
So, is he then likely to look at those who are earning and earning well and say, I know I've been asking too much of you, but I need to ask a little bit more of you?
It is a possibility. There has been a bit of speculation in the market that we would be looking at potentially increasing the sliding scale bracket. Now, that is not necessarily a case of taking the 45% bracket to a 46 or a 47 or whatever the case is, but rather reducing the minimum thresholds from about a 1.8 odd million, which puts you into the 45, to potentially lower to cast the tax net wider.
Do we have an understanding why there will be, anything between 40 and 55 billion rand, depending on which economist's report you're reading, that is the amount of money that which was forecast in February that will not be collected by the taxman? Why haven't we? Was it just a case of being unbelievably, ambitious in terms of budgeting, or are there systems in SARS that are not able to collect those tax revenues?
So there's multiple contributing factors there. All right. So I think the biggest contributing factor would be that the windfall in the mining sector has ended. So if we look at the fiscal collections from 21 and 22, the mining sector's contribution has dropped by approximately 32%. So that has your adverse impact on the corporate tax side of it. Now, statistically, corporate taxes are, I think it was about 30 billion. Short of what they were projected in the budget speech in February. So that already accounts for more than half of your deficit. And as I like to call it, the fiscal pothole. We are in South Africa after all. So that's on one side. And then on the other side is SARS systems. Now, last week we saw some very interesting tactics from SARS. One of them was an SMS to tax representatives stating that should you fail to remedy the outstanding submissions or outstanding debt for a company, your company tax returns must be filed. If you fail to do this within 10 days from receipt of this, SARS will give you a notice of intention to issue summons. Right, shortly after that, SARS sent out this public apology saying, we're so sorry for scaring taxpayers. All right, but literally a day before that, what I picked up on my side was SARS did a mail merge exercise, meaning that any taxpayer that had a debt, whether they were under a payment arrangement, whether they had entered into a successful compromise of tax debt, or whether there was a suspension in place, whatever the case was, they got these emails from SARS saying that you owe X amount of money and you have 10 business days to make payment or alternatively make an arrangement. And I actually have it in writing from SARS in one of my clients' matters that, so sorry, please ignore, this is a system-generated mail, which means SARS has indiscriminately sent out these communications in an attempt to actually bring in additional collections.
Which is worrying, isn't it?
Look, it's extremely worrying. So on my side, it's nothing new to us. We see these very odd tactics all the time. But for the average taxpayer, I would say receiving one of those notices is probably nothing short of a mini heart attack, especially if you were unaware that you owed SARS anything and suddenly you're getting an email saying, listen, you owe us 1.2 million.
Yeah. I suppose we'll find out tomorrow afternoon at 2:00 which way he's going to move. And just to be clear, he won't be announcing any tax cuts or shifts or breaks at all tomorrow, but he'll be indicating what he's likely to announce in February, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And when February comes, I will be doing what I do every February, which is the budget breakfast, where we actually unpack the budget speech in more detail, especially focused on the Annexure C that's provided in the budget speech.
Looking forward to that. Thank you very much. Jashwin Baijoo, the Head of Strategic Engagement and Compliance at Tax Consulting South Africa.